Smartphones usually cost about $500 to $700, but what if you could get a quality Android 4.2 Jelly Bean device unlocked for half that cost? That's the goal of Blu Life Play, a $230 smartphone that wants to be above average in quality but below average in cost. Are they successful in that goal? Well, let's see. The Life Play is designed by Blu, a company based in Miami, Florida, my hometown, shameless plug, and they've got a very simple goal. Deliver a good Android device without costing as much as a good Android device typically does. In some areas they're very successful in that regard, and some they fall short. But let's focus on the device itself. When you look at the display, it's got a 4.7-inch screen and a 720p resolution. The color profile is very nice. You might not show it up on camera, but when you look at it in person, it actually looks surprisingly good, especially when you consider this is meant to be a slightly above average mid-range device. And in the realm of mid-range devices, this is definitely way above what you typically expect to see in that field. Aside from that, it's got a nice polycarbonate material. It's not glossy, but it's not rough. It just feels kind of there and it's standard, and it stays cool in your hand, so it's not a problem. The button placements to the right, you've got volume up and down, and you have power right in the middle. Obviously well positioned, and it's always going to be comfortable whether you're right-handed or left. The Life Play has a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor, and it only has 1 gigabyte of RAM, so I don't need to tell you that this doesn't exactly blow up the benchmark charts. When you look closely, you can see it's actually behind the Samsung Galaxy S3 that was released last year, and that's more to do with the RAM and the processor being clocked at a lower speed. But again, you got to remember that this is a mid-range device. It's not designed to be a spec hound and compete with some of the other devices that are on the market. It's supposed to be something that's a solid performer that loads your apps fairly quickly and does it in a good enough way. Now, when you look at the performance, I've noticed that it does lag sometimes, and there are some weird instances where things don't exactly appear as they should. There's a little bit of delay, especially when you're running a lot of apps at the same time. But when you have one or two apps open and you're just, let's say, listening to music and browsing the web, or you're just going on Twitter, or just playing one game at a time, it's definitely able to keep up. The problem comes when you have a lot of apps installed on the device and you have a lot of things running at once. You might run into some issues. It's got 4 gigabytes of internal memory, and in the back, let me see if I can get this off, it has a micro SD slot. You might have noticed that there are actually 2 SIM slots right here. It's a dual SIM device, so depending on where you are, it should work on multiple networks. Right now, I've got a T-Mobile SIM in here. It does work with AT&T as well, but I found that T-Mobile was easier to use, and it has 4G HSPA+. It's theoretically maxed out at 42.2 megabits per second, but depending on your local area, you might get slower speeds. You probably won't reach that full potential. On the back, you've got an 8 megapixel camera with flash LED, and on the front, you've got a 2 megapixel front-facing camera for video chat, which is above what you're normally seeing. The camera app is capable of recording 1080p videos at 30 frames per second, and it has a unique camera app that's kind of nice because it has some good features that I can start recording a video, and if something happens and I feel the need to pause it, I can just hold down on the record button and you notice that it starts pausing, and to resume I just tap the record button again. So that's a nice camera app that they've changed, and they made a few other adjustments to it. When you look in the photo mode, it's just like every other camera app. You can adjust the white balance, the scenes, the settings, exposure, but you can also change the saturation, brightness, contrast, picture size, a lot of things that you can change in case you want to get the things just right. Now, the overall quality of the device isn't the best out there, but the camera can definitely go a long way in improving the level of good photos that you're able to take. It does support HDR video and photo, and aside from that, they've also made some changes to the camera app, so you can have what's called like phone booth, so in case you want to put like a little rainbow border around your photo or anything like that. Not the most sophisticated thing out there, but you know, it's an option to have. On the lock screen, you do have the options to load widgets and add certain things. You can choose different clocks, calendars, a Google Now update, obviously. And speaking of Google Now, it's a little strange the way that you access Google Now. You do have the home screen widget available here at all times, but there isn't a quick way to get there. When you hold down the capacitive home button, there's no link to Google Now like you see in some other devices. You can't access it by double tapping. You don't double tap the menu. So there's no easy way to get to Now unless you're on the home screen. And you, just in case you didn't notice it the first time, when you hold down on the home button, that's where you go to multitask. So if you want to close something, you just swipe it left, just like that, it's gone like that. There's an interesting feature in here called Power Saver, which pretty much allows you to set the system to disable certain features so it can power down your clock speed a little more, so you can use even less energy, and you can enable conditions. So if your phone reaches at 30%, turn off GPS, turn off Bluetooth, things like that. So it's a nice way to manage your power. And that's kind of one of the ways that they've enhanced it, but there are very few enhancements when you look at the software here. It's a similar stock experience. It's not exactly. As you see, the calendar app is a little bit different. You have these different options here. Also, the People app. When you go into People, oh, where was I? You can see that they definitely made some UI changes. It's not exactly the same. When you go to a friend, you can see it looks like stock Android, but it's not exactly like it. And that's kind of the thing here. They don't really make major changes or major additions like TouchWiz or Sense. When you look around at the apps, these are all apps that I added mainly. There aren't really many new apps they've included other than Torch, which is basically like a flashlight. You turn it on and off at your convenience. So again, this is something that you control. It's very light. There's no carrier bloatware, obviously. It's an unlocked device. That's what you would expect. So when you download an app, it's up to you to find the things that you want to use, and it's up to you to find the apps that are going to be valued to you. They've got an FM radio included in here, but you can only use that when you plug in earphones. And that brings me to my next problem, or I should say a problem. Give life back to music, let the music in your life. Now, the rear speaker actually plays at a decent volume, so I don't have any problems with it. But when I plug in my earphones, I have a big problem. Why? Because it sounds terrible. It's distorted. It's muffled. And that's because this device, the Blu Life Play, only supports one of the two major audio standards when it comes to headphones. So if you plug in the earphones that come with the device, yes, it's going to sound good, and I give them credit. These are some free earphones that actually don't sound bad. It's not much of an issue. But if you ever lose them, good luck trying to find a replacement, because this will only support this specific standard. So if you try to find something or upgrade with something that's a little more comfortable, has better sound that you believe, it might not have better sound because of the audio limitation, which is a big disappointment for me as someone who frequently loses headphones or changes earphones, and that's going to be a problem if you're also someone like that who upgrades frequently. Blu took some shortcuts when they created this phone, but they didn't sell users short because you know what to expect and you know what you're getting. No, it's not a competitor to the Galaxy S4 or the HTC One. It's an above-average smartphone in the mid-range category. When you look at the display, it's very good. When you look at the software package, it's actually more up-to-date than some flagship devices because it's running Android 4.2. The overall package is solid. Performance is good. Yes, there's some occasional lag and some jitteriness and because of its only 1 GB of RAM. But overall, it performs better than you'd expect, and that's definitely something to consider if you're in the market for a new phone. Now, if you want something that's a little bit better than what you typically get on contract, if you typically get the free phones, this is something that's going to be good because of the price. You don't have to pay $500 to $600 to get a solid phone, and it's actually surprisingly good. It's nice to hold, it remains cool, the colors pop out at you a little, and the speaker is okay. And despite my issue with the headphone jack, this is something that I could see myself recommending to someone who's getting their first smartphone, or they want an unlocked smartphone on a budget. It is dual SIM, so you can easily pop in your compatible SIM card and get a good experience depending on where you live. But this is Andrew from mobileburn.com taking a look at the Blu Life Play. For more information on this device, follow the link below and you can see photo samples and get a written review of this device as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, feel free to subscribe.